After years of anticipation, Saw X finally hit the screens. The film not only raked in over $100 million at the North American box office in just 3 weeks but also garnered an astonishingly high rating of 8.5, thanks to its phenomenal word of mouth. Directed by Kevin Grudert, the director of Saw 6 and Saw 7, the return of the iconic characters Jigsaw and Amanda takes us back to the familiar world of Saw. The storyline of this film revisits the events of the first and second installments. Today, let's delve into Saw X together. A man wakes up to find himself bound, with a peculiar mechanical device attached to his eyes. Custodian, who witnesses this scene, is instantly terrified. Before Custodian can comprehend what is happening, he hears the voice of the captor.
Play a game. Perhaps one that addresses those sticky fingers of yours.
As it turns out, Custodian worked as a janitor at a hospital. Exploiting his position, Custodian intended to steal belongings from the patients. However, Jigsaw, who was suffering from cancer, discovered Custodian's secret during a visit to the hospital. Custodian has been abducted and brought here to face a punishing game. 5 fingers on Custodian's right hand are tied with wires, and 2 tubes over his eyes are connected to a powerful suction mechanism. Custodian must rotate the disc on his left-hand side 5 times to complete the punishment game. However, each rotation will result in the breaking of 1 finger. If he doesn't complete the punishment within the time limit, Custodian will lose both of his eyes. With the countdown underway, Custodian weighs his options and decides to sacrifice his fingers. But each turn of the finger brought Custodian excruciating pain. The pain was so intense that Custodian hesitated. As the countdown swiftly approaches its end, Custodian's eyeballs are immediately sucked away by the powerful suction. Fortunately, the preceding scene was merely a figment of Jigsaw's imagination. Custodian noticed Jigsaw discovering his theft and promptly returned the stolen items, thus evading Jigsaw's punishment. And Jigsaw knew his days were numbered after his bout with cancer. Disheartened, Jigsaw planned to leave his possessions to his wife for the rest of his life. However, the arrival of a fellow patient named Henry presented Jigsaw with a new glimmer of hope. From Henry, Jigsaw learned that his cancer had miraculously been cured, thanks to a mysterious company. This company had discovered a groundbreaking treatment for cancer patients. Since the treatment had not been approved by regulatory authorities, it could only be received in secret. Henry provided Jigsaw with a website where he could find them, and indeed, there was information about the treatment circulating online. With skepticism in his heart, Jigsaw decided to contact them anyway. Soon, he received a phone call from Dr. Cecilia, the enigmatic head of the company. Cecilia informed him that they had a team in Mexico secretly treating the next batch of patients, and if Jigsaw was interested, she could secure a spot for him. Approaching the situation with a why not attitude, Jigsaw chose to travel to Mexico. As soon as he landed, a driver named Diego personally received him. Diego guided Jigsaw through the city until they reached a desolate area. However, at that moment, a mysterious car suddenly appeared and intercepted them, halting their progress. 2 armed robbers targeted Jigsaw, making him believe he had fallen into a trap. But the other side, after learning Jigsaw's real name, said they were from the mystery company. Jigsaw was taken to a secluded house. They explained that their actions were to ensure safety and avoid detection since the surgery they were performing was illegal. Gabriella, the receptionist, arranged accommodation for Jigsaw. She revealed that she was also a patient who had been cured by Dr. Cecilia. Soon, Jigsaw met Cecilia, the person in charge. Cecilia sensed Jigsaw's doubts and, in order to prove her professionalism, promptly took him to her treatment room. She introduced Jigsaw to her team, which included skilled anesthesiologists, nurses, and doctors. Jigsaw also saw a patient named Parker who had completed the treatment. Witnessing all of this, hope began to bloom in Jigsaw's heart. He decided to undergo the surgery the next day without hesitation. After the completion of the surgery, when Jigsaw regained consciousness, he found himself recuperating in a hotel room. Cecilia presented Jigsaw with the post-operative medical report. Jigsaw saw that his hemoglobin levels had finally returned to normal, indicating that he had been successfully treated. Feeling rejuvenated, Jigsaw happily settled the remaining payment for the procedure with Cecilia. Grateful for his newfound lease on life, Jigsaw could feel the entire world was beautiful at this moment. But this illusion would soon be shattered. As Jigsaw arrived with a gift to thank them, he found the place empty, and the treatment room built within the factory was in ruins. Jigsaw discovered from the recorded footage on the computer that his surgery was never performed. It was just a surgical video. When Jigsaw removed the bandage from his head, he realized he had been deceived. Not even a single strand of hair was taken from the back. This revelation brought Jigsaw, who had regained his life, back to his original state, filled with anger, and the crooks don't know they're messing with the wrong people. The driver who greeted Jigsaw is soon kidnapped by Jigsaw. When Diego woke up from unconsciousness, he found himself tied up, his hands taped, and a bomb strapped to his arm. Diego cried out for help, unaware of the situation he was in, until he saw the man standing before him. He realized Jigsaw had no intention of letting him go. Diego had just revealed everything to Jigsaw, but he couldn't escape his own self-redemption game and punishment. Diego looked at the surgical knife taped to his hand and thought about cutting the ropes immediately, but he didn't expect that the moment he freed himself from the ropes, the bomb would be activated. Then, familiar tape recorder appeared before him, playing a punishment message and the rules of the game. It turned out that Diego was not only the driver who received Jigsaw, but he also disguised himself as the surgeon for the surgery. The rules of the game were simple. Diego had to cut off the flesh from his own arm to remove the bomb. Jigsaw, being meticulous, reminded Diego that the surgical knife couldn't cut through the ropes binding him. As the 3-minute countdown began, Diego tried to escape and seek help, but he realized the place was already locked, and half the time had passed. To stay alive, Diego had no choice but to cut off the flesh from his arm. In excruciating pain, Diego relied on his strong will to survive and forcefully cut off the skin from his arm, removing the bomb. With little time left, Diego kicked the bomb into a corner. As the bomb detonated, Diego ultimately passed the test and survived. And Jigsaw, with the help of Detective Hoffman, was able to pinpoint the others. The fake nurse was taken first, followed by Gabriella, who hosted Jigsaw. Matteo couldn't escape capture either, and the final mastermind, Dr. Cecilia, was still searching for new targets for the next deception. Unaware that she was being targeted, Cecilia sensed someone had broken into her home as she prepared to leave with the money. By the time Cecilia checked the surveillance cameras, it was too late. A figure had already reached the rooftop. The figure picked up a heavy object and shattered the glass above Cecilia's head. Terrified, Cecilia hurriedly prepared to leave but was stopped by a mysterious person wearing a pig mask blocking her path. At that moment, Jigsaw, holding a syringe, was already waiting for her in the car. The one blocking their path was Jigsaw's apprentice, Amanda. The captured individuals soon realized they were back in the abandoned factory where they had carried out their scams. They had no idea who had kidnapped them. Amanda arrives and wakes up Cecilia from her coma, collecting her coat and mobile phone and placing them on the equipment table. With the arrival of Jigsaw, they finally realize who they've offended. Faced with their desperate pleas, Jigsaw paid no attention. He stated that everyone would have a chance at self-redemption. To survive, they had to pass the upcoming punishment game. Valentina became the first test subject. Jigsaw opened a box containing a ghillie saw, capable of cutting through flesh, including hard bones. There was also a circle of razor-sharp ghillie saws surrounding Valentina. At this moment, Valentina realized the dire situation she was in. Once activated, the device would move the ghillie saws backward, potentially ending her life. The rule to stay alive was for Valentina to use the ghillie saw from the box to sever her own thigh. Jigsaw even marked the cutting position on Valentina's leg. To make matters worse, after severing her thigh, Valentina had to extract 85 grams of bone marrow and transfer it to a nearby device. If she failed to do so within the specified time, Valentina would not be able to save her own neck. With Jigsaw and Amanda back in the penthouse observation room, the thrilling punishment began. Everyone who witnessed this scene was horrified. In order to survive, Valentina had no choice but to follow through. She applied a tourniquet to her leg. Then, Valentina picked up the ghillie saw and began cutting into her own thigh. Each pull of the saw caused excruciating pain, driven by a strong will to survive. She had to continue pulling the ghillie saw until Valentina was numb and she managed to cut her own thigh. But she couldn't relax just yet because she still had to extract the bone marrow from her thigh. Unfortunately, Valentina couldn't complete the final step. As the countdown ended, the ghillie saw caused Valentina's demise, leaving her lifeless. Everyone was petrified as they witnessed the scene. Jigsaw and Amanda were ready to take a break before continuing the punishment. But then Cecilia's mobile phone rang. They realized that Amanda had left her phone behind, providing them an opportunity to seek help. Unfortunately, they were all chained up and unable to reach the phone. Cecilia noticed that Jigsaw wasn't monitoring them at that moment, giving them a chance to devise a plan to retrieve the phone. They immediately thought of using a rope. Cecilia glanced at Valentina's lifeless body and had a bold idea. She moved the corpse next to her and then found a piece of metal tool. The images are so brutal, you can imagine for yourself. With this method, Cecilia successfully retrieved the phone. Just as Cecilia dialed for help, Amanda spotted her. Amanda activated a motorized device and took the phone away, crushing their hopes completely. As Jigsaw prepared to initiate the next round of punishment, unexpectedly, someone arrived outside. It was another victim, Parker, who arrived with a gun to get his money back. To prevent their plan from being disrupted, Amanda ambushed and incapacitated Parker. When Parker regained consciousness, he found himself bound. Jigsaw invited Parker to witness this righteous punishment. In return, Jigsaw would set Parker free and return the money he had been deceived out of. The condition was that Parker couldn't use the gun to break the rules in this place. As Amanda electrocuted Matteo, when Matteo regained consciousness, he found himself wearing a peculiar mechanical headgear. Meanwhile, a clown puppet on a bicycle slowly approached the anesthesia room, carrying surgical tools behind it. Matteo only noticed from the surveillance footage that a patch of his hair had been shaved off. A recording provided the rules for this game. Matteo had to extract a piece of gray matter, colloquially known as brain tissue, from his own skull. Once enough gray matter was placed in the glass container in front of him, a solution inside would dissolve and disable the circuitry, allowing him to retrieve the key and unlock the collar around his neck. If he failed to retrieve the key within the specified time, his life would be in jeopardy. What made it even more terrifying was that this cranial surgery didn't provide any anesthesia. As the countdown began, Matteo had no choice but to activate a small electric drill. Through the camera's lens, Matteo fought through a numbing headache to make a hole in his own scalp. Matteo successfully used the tweezers to extract a piece of gray matter and threw it into the glass container, but he was too late. As the countdown ended, the wire mechanism on Matteo's mask instantly heated up and turned red, and then the mask was closed and Matteo was scalded to death. And the always fair and just Jigsaw, before starting the next punishment game, instructed Amanda to release Parker, granting him freedom. The next test is Gabriella. The chains binding Gabriella's hands were quickly recovered and soon she was suspended in midair. Before her eyes appeared a terrifying ionizing radiation device. If she failed to break free from the chains within the specified time, Gabriella would be roasted alive by the intense heat. The only tool for her escape was a suspended iron hammer. In order to survive, Gabriella had no choice but to follow the rules. Cecilia also reminded Gabriella that she chose to start with her feet first so that she could avoid the ionizing radiation. Summoning her courage, Gabriella swung the hammer towards her own ankle. After several strikes, Gabriella successfully broke her ankle and freed herself from the chains. However, she quickly lost her balance and swung to the other side. Thinking she had escaped this ordeal, Gabriella was taken aback as the ionizing radiation device rotated and targeted her once again. Driven by her will to survive, Gabriella had no option but to raise the iron hammer and relentlessly strike her own hand. Gabriella managed to survive through sheer determination. As Jigsaw prepared for Amanda to take Gabriella to the hospital, Parker, violating the rules, obtained a gun and took control of Jigsaw. Parker threatened Jigsaw to hand over the key to Cecilia's handcuffs. Parker turned out to be one of them. Parker locked Jigsaw and Amanda away, and even though Jigsaw reminded Cecilia that Gabriella needed medical attention, Cecilia showed no concern for Gabriella's life. To Cecilia, one less person meant a larger share of the money for her. Then Cecilia stepped on Gabriella's neck and broke it. An enraged Amanda was powerless to stop her. Cecilia and Parker chose not to directly kill Jigsaw and Amanda. Instead, they decided to use Jigsaw's own contraptions to punish him. It was evident that Jigsaw's contraption required one more person. Initially, Parker intended to send Amanda up, but suddenly, they heard a voice from outside. A young boy playing soccer had arrived. Carlos had a chance encounter with Jigsaw during a treatment session. Cecilia had a more wicked idea to involve Carlos in this contraption punishment. Cecilia sought to sacrifice innocent Carlos, causing Jigsaw to die with pain and guilt. As she knew Jigsaw's time was running out, Carlos, who was captured, was terrified when he saw this scene unfold. As Parker activated the mechanism, the iron chains on their bodies were quickly retracted, pulling them down and locking them onto the platform. The platform started to rise slowly, and two funnel-like devices descended from above. Soon, a large amount of black water began to flow down from above, with a density sufficient to suffocate them. Jigsaw pulled a switch and the platform tilted, stopping the flow of water from Carlos' side of the platform to Jigsaw's side. Clearly, this was a mechanism of mutual salvation, where if one side had selfish intentions, the other one will die for sure. Carlos, witnessing the situation, decisively chose to manipulate the device, granting Jigsaw a momentary respite, but Jigsaw urged Carlos not to do so. Jigsaw tightly held onto the lever, refusing to let go. But Parker and Cecilia aren't interested. They've come to the loft to get the money and get out of here. Cecilia found her bag above the cabinet and was preparing to leave with the money when she accidentally triggered a hidden switch mechanism, and it successfully terminated Jigsaw's mechanism. Only then did Cecilia and Parker realize that the contents of the bag were not money but a pile of scrap paper. Meanwhile, the attic door was tightly locked. Jigsaw and Amanda unlocked the shackles on their bodies, and it turns out that this was all part of Jigsaw's plan. When Cecilia tried to forcefully open the door lock with a gun, they discovered that the bullets inside the gun couldn't be fired at all. It turned out that Jigsaw had tampered with the bullets when Parker was knocked unconscious. They only realized that Jigsaw had long known Parker's identity. Diego had already informed Jigsaw about Parker's identity. Jigsaw had gone to great lengths precisely to lure Parker out. Because Detective Hoffman couldn't find detailed information about Parker or his whereabouts, and the cell phone was intentionally left behind by Amanda, the purpose was to have Cecilia notify Parker to come here. Parker believed that he had deceived Jigsaw, unaware that he was the prey being awaited, and that they were Jigsaw's targets. By the time they understood, it was already too late. A large amount of toxic gas began to fill the sealed attic. Parker grabbed a chair and hurriedly smashed it against the glass, but he realized that it was reinforced glass that couldn't be broken, and only one person could survive because there was only one opening where they could breathe non-toxic air. Seeing the dire situation, Parker engaged in a fight with Cecilia, and Cecilia killed Parker, but Cecilia was trapped forever, unable to escape from this place. Jigsaw ended up giving Carlos this money from Cecilia. They opened the door to darkness and finally welcomed the light. With this, the Saw series reached its final chapter and concluded perfectly.